Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, honestly kind of overdue, transformation happening right now in how we interact with our civic infrastructure. For decades, public service environments have been plagued by these huge communication bottlenecks. But today, we're looking at how the modern GovTech approach is completely revolutionizing that whole experience. We're talking about dynamic digital signage solutions and how they are quite literally upgrading the very fabric of government agencies.
I want you to just think back for a second. Have you ever been lost in this maze-like city hall, just desperately trying to find one specific department? Or, even better, you've sat in a crowded waiting room at the DMV, staring at some faded static poster, endlessly waiting without actually knowing your real place in line? Yeah, it's a universally frustrating pain point. Navigating massive government facilities and waiting in these ambiguous queues, well, it causes a lot of anxiety. But what if the building itself could actively guide you, update you, and essentially speak to you?
Okay, let's dive into exactly how we're going to cover this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. Section 1 is the GovTech shift. Section 2, why agencies need it. Then 3, high-impact use cases. Section 4 covers ADA compliance and inclusion. 5 tackles IT integration. And finally, Section 6 will look at the Munich success story.
So, starting right off with Section 1, the GovTech shift and the evolution of communication. We really have to understand the transition happening right now, moving away from static, outdated communication toward dynamic, real-time solutions in the public sector. The contrast we're looking at here is just stark. On one side, we have the analog past. Government offices have historically relied on these outdated bulletin boards, printed posters, and just massive, heavy binders of policy printouts. And let's be real, these are incredibly difficult to update, they cost a fortune to keep printing, and frankly, they're easily overlooked by the public. On the flip side, we have the digital future. We are talking about cloud-managed screens delivering visually engaging, concise messages. Whether it's images, videos, or real-time updates pushed from one central location to dozens of facilities all at once, this scalable movement is completely modernizing public communication.
Which brings us to Section 2, why agencies need it and the specific benefits of digital signage. Why exactly are IT and communications leaders making this shift an absolute top-tier priority?
Well, the core reasons are pretty clear-cut. First off, you've got significant time and cost savings. Updating a massive network of screens literally takes a few clicks. That saves thousands on paper, ink, and the sheer manual labor of walking around swapping out posters. Second, it aligns perfectly with green initiatives. It's an eco-friendly, paperless operation that drastically reduces waste. Third, think about rural areas for a minute. By installing self-service kiosks in, say, a local library, agencies can provide 24/7 remote support for permit applications or bill payments, all without needing on-site staff. And finally, and honestly, perhaps most importantly, instant real-time emergency communication. If a flash flood or a hurricane is imminent, a central command can instantly override every single screen in the city to display evacuation routes and life-saving instructions. That's huge.
All right, Section 3, high-impact use cases and practical applications. We know the broad benefits, but let's actually break down how this works on the ground. We can group these high-impact use cases into 2 main buckets, enhancing the visitor experience and boosting operational efficiency. First up, enhancing that visitor experience. Just imagine walking into a sprawling municipal building. Instead of doing that confused panic search for a reception desk, you're immediately greeted by crisp digital welcome boards. You interact with color-coded wayfinding maps right at the elevator banks. And since our human brains process visual information way faster than text, these intuitive, interactive maps guide citizens seamlessly. It takes a massive burden off the reception staff for sure. Now, what's really interesting here is how we tackle the dreaded waiting room. A digital queue management system does something incredible to human psychology. By clearly displaying ticket numbers, estimated wait durations, and assigned service counters, it drastically reduces that perceived waiting time and all that visitor anxiety. When people can literally see their place in line at a permit center, the entire waiting area just becomes calmer and, honestly, far more productive.
And, government buildings also host a ton of events, public hearings, job fairs, permit clinics, you name it. For event and visitor management, self-service check-in kiosks swiftly print badges and just completely eliminate those massive entry queues. You've got compliance kiosks that automate the signing of required forms and rules, plus strategically placed directional screens effortlessly control foot traffic flow. So an entire event can be streamlined without requiring a huge influx of temporary staff or printing hundreds of those little paper guides that just end up in the trash anyway.
And that feeds perfectly into our second category, operational efficiency. Large facilities have dozens of meeting chambers. Digital plaques mounted outside these rooms pull from a central calendar to automatically update room scheduling. So actually scratch that whole idea of paper printouts taped to doors. That's done. Municipalities can also instantly push multilingual public announcements to diverse neighborhoods. And, as we touched on earlier, centralized emergency warnings can be deployed across a whole city's infrastructure with literally one single click from a central command center.
Moving on to Section 4, ADA compliance and inclusion. Because look, it's not just about operational efficiency. It is an absolute legal and ethical necessity to ensure these communications are accessible to every single citizen. So the crucial point here is that digital signage provides practical, real-world tools to meet these ADA standards. Step 1 is multi-sensory output. We're talking about kiosks installed at wheelchair-accessible heights, featuring high-contrast text for the visually impaired, and text-to-speech audio announcements, so nobody is left out. Step 2 is multilingual support. Think about a city like New York. A single lobby display can rotate slides from English to Spanish to Chinese seamlessly. Step 3 involves tactile and gesture interfaces. Voice commands and touchless navigation really empower those with limited mobility to interact with government services completely independently.
Okay, Section 5, IT integration and secure infrastructure. For all the public sector professionals and IT leaders joining us, you might be wondering, how does all of this actually integrate securely with your existing highly locked down infrastructure?
Well, modern GovTech is built on some seriously robust IT integration pillars. First up, the Content Management System, or CMS, acts as a central hub. It securely syncs directly with your existing cloud drives, internal databases, and even live APIs, like public transit data. Second, it integrates with emergency software using the Standardized Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, ensuring instant overrides during a crisis. Third, it automates CRM workflows. A citizen checking in at a kiosk automatically populates your backend CRM and alerts staff on a dashboard. Finally, the whole shebang features encrypted, permission-based security. It strictly adheres to government IT policies, and it can even be deployed on premises for those highly sensitive environments.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final point, Section 6, the Munich success story. Let's look at some empirical proof. Let's see how this technology works at a massive scale by checking out a real success story from the Munich Regional Administrative Office over in Germany.
I want you to look at this number, 5,000. That is the number of visitors the Munich Government Service Center processes every single day. That's enough people to fill a small stadium daily. Managing that level of high foot traffic while optimizing navigation and ensuring ADA accessibility is a monumental task.
So what did they actually do? Well, the Munich administration deployed an end-to-end digital signage solution featuring 294 devices. And what's amazing is this entire network is managed completely remotely via a cloud platform. The solution includes outdoor and indoor wayfinding kiosks to guide all visitors literally from the moment they arrive. It features digital room signage for their training centers, elevator displays to control foot traffic, and a highly streamlined queue management system built specifically for the Civil Registration Office.
The transformation was an absolute game changer. By implementing a holistic approach that combined information, navigation, and queue management, Munich empowered even first-time visitors to navigate the building with minimal staff assistance. Ultimately, Munich's example demonstrates that with the right digital signage, even the busiest public service centers can dramatically improve the user experience and operational effectiveness. It just completely changes the relationship between the citizen and the government office. Which leaves us with this final, somewhat provocative thought to consider. Are our local public institutions actually equipped with the tools to meet the expectations of the 21st century citizen? The technology absolutely exists to eliminate the bottlenecks, the confusion, and the wait times. It's time to rethink our civic infrastructure. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some curiosity about the future of GovTech.